The station hung in space like a dull, silver rock, spinning slowly in the shadow of a distant gas giant. Ships from dozens of worlds passed through its gates every hour, some brimming with goods, others with passengers, and a few carrying secrets no one dared speak aloud. But to most of the galaxy, the station was nothing more than a stopover, a place for refueling and quick trade. To him, it was home, or as close to home as a human could have in the cold vastness of space. He was a human veteran. His face was lined with more than age. It bore the map of countless battles fought far from home, battles that were now only memories. His body had grown stiff with time, and his hands shook as he tried to keep them steady, even when holding something as small as a metal cup. The cup was dented and scratched, and inside were 13 cents, the last coins he had in the galaxy. 13 cents and hope, barely enough to buy a meal, barely enough to buy anything at all. Humans were no longer rare in the galaxy. Once, centuries ago, their species had been underestimated, laughed at by taller, stronger, and faster aliens. But humans had survived every war, every catastrophe, every alien invasion. They had persisted because they refused to give up. That persistence had earned respect, eventually. But respect did not pay the rent, nor did it fill an empty stomach. Not here, not in the corner of the station where he now sat, leaning against a rusted wall. He watched the crowd moving past him. They were tall beings with shimmering skin, floating creatures with translucent bodies, and scaled ones with claws and wings. They whispered to each other in strange tongues, passing by without a second glance. Some even sneered when they noticed him. The veteran knew the look. Humans were common, yes, but old human soldiers, forgotten. And yet, even among the chaos, he saw her. The dragon woman stood near the station entrance. Even at a distance, she was impossible to ignore. Her scales glimmered in shades of deep red and gold, catching the light like fire. Her wings were folded awkwardly against her back, and the tips were tattered and torn. Her horns curved back gracefully, polished like black stone. Most beings instinctively stepped aside when she passed. Some stared in awe, others in fear. Whispers followed her, but she did not stride with power. She crouched, almost kneeling, her body low and weary. She had a small metal bowl before her and a tattered sign written in broken trade language. The sign read simply, "Help, hungry, lost." No one stopped for her. Not the traders, not the guards, not even the wealthy aliens who walked past with jewel-encrusted devices in their hands. The galaxy had taught them to fear dragons, but this one looked nothing like the dragons of stories. This one looked human-sized in her exhaustion, vulnerable in ways dragons rarely allowed themselves to be. The veteran studied her for a long time. His mind ran through calculations. 13 cents was almost nothing. It would not buy him a proper meal. It would not pay for shelter, for medicine, for anything. But still, he felt a pull he could not explain. A memory of kindness from long ago rose in him. Someone had once helped a human when no one else would, and that help had changed everything. Maybe the galaxy had forgotten the value of small acts. Maybe some things were still worth giving. He shifted, pulling himself to his feet. His boots made a soft clang on the metal floor. He approached her slowly, careful not to startle her. She looked up, eyes dull but intelligent, and paused her movement. For a moment, neither spoke. The crowd moved around them, a blur of movement and sound, but the veteran and the dragon woman seemed suspended in a quiet bubble. He reached into his pocket and counted his coins again, 13 cents, every single coin he had left. He dropped them into her bowl without hesitation. The sound of metal clinking against metal was louder than it should have been, as if the act itself carried weight. The dragon woman froze. Her eyes widened, then narrowed as she processed the gesture. "Why?" Her voice was a soft hiss, almost melodic. "Why would you give everything you have to a stranger?" The veteran shrugged. "Once someone helped a human when no one else would. It mattered to me. Maybe it matters to you too." His voice was quiet, tired, and steady. "Kindness should not depend on strength." She stared at him, silence stretching between them longer than it should have. Then slowly, she lowered her head in a bow, something dragons rarely did in public, something dragons rarely did at all. For a moment the veteran felt an unfamiliar warmth, not pride, not hope, just a gentle acknowledgement that he had done the right thing. "Thank you," she whispered. No one has ever done this before." He nodded once, then turned away. He did not expect anything to come of it. He did not look back. After all, he had given his last coins. There was nothing left to gain. The crowd continued around them, oblivious to the quiet transaction. Traders shouted their offers. Children ran past, laughing. Machines hummed and whirred. The galaxy moved on as it always did. But in the corner of the station, a small act had been recorded, by memory if not by sensors, and it would not be forgotten. Night fell. The station dimmed as artificial lights flickered on. The veteran returned to his small bunk in a nearby shelter, a tiny room with a cot and a locker. He curled up under a thin blanket, thinking of nothing and everything at once. He thought of battles fought and comrades lost. He thought of days when victory felt like a distant dream, and he thought of the dragon woman kneeling, tired and alone, yet somehow majestic even in her despair. Sleep came slowly, but it came. When he awoke, the station was different. Not immediately, not obviously, but in ways that made him uneasy. People looked at him, not with pity but with curiosity. Whispers followed him as he moved through the halls. Traders paused mid-sentence to stare. Security guards watched him with eyes that were too sharp. Something was coming, though he could not yet see it. He shrugged it off. Perhaps the galaxy had just decided to notice him for the first time in years. Perhaps it was nothing at all. Still, in the corner of the station, the dragon woman was gone. No bowl remained, no sign, no trace of her presence except for the memory of her bow. He did not know it yet, but a chain had been set in motion, one that would reach across the stars, across fleets, across entire worlds. One small act of kindness, 13 cents given freely, had begun a story that the galaxy would not forget. And for the first time in a long while, the human veteran felt something he had not felt in years. The quiet hope that he, and perhaps all humans, were not as small as the galaxy liked to believe. The morning light in the station was harsh and cold, reflecting off metal walls and smooth glass panels. Humans, aliens, and hybrids moved about their business, carrying goods, running errands, and rushing to ships that would take them far away from this dull outpost in the outer rim. But something was different today. The human veteran woke in his small, cramped shelter as he did every morning. The cot beneath him was lumpy, the blanket threadbare, and his stomach growled. Hunger had become a constant companion, but he had long since learned to ignore it. He stretched, rubbed his stiff joints, and stepped outside, expecting the same station he had seen 1,000 times. The station, however, was not the same. Even before he reached the corridors, he noticed it. Aliens stared at him as he walked past. Some whispered urgently to each other, glancing over their shoulders. Traders paused mid-transaction, their deals forgotten. Security drones hovered closer, observing him with a strange intensity. Even the automated announcements in the station, the ones that normally droned on without variation, seemed to pause, as if giving him a moment of attention the galaxy rarely allowed. He frowned. Was this some trick? A new security measure? A warning? "Hey," a young trader called, running to catch up. Do you know what's happening? Everyone's looking for you." The veteran blinked. "Looking for me?" He rubbed his eyes. "Why would anyone be looking for me?" The trader shook her head, eyes wide. "I don't know. But it's everywhere. Signals, messages, all channels. Something big is coming. You need to be careful." He did not understand. He had not done anything. He was just a forgotten old human, invisible in the eyes of the galaxy. Yet now every pair of eyes seemed to weigh on him, and a low hum ran through the station, almost imperceptible but constant, vibrating in the metal floor beneath his feet. And then he saw it. Above the station, in the cold darkness of space, a ship appeared. It was enormous. Its hull shimmered with an energy that looked alive, like fire frozen in metal. At first it moved slowly, almost majestically, as if studying the station. Then another appeared, then a third. Within moments, dozens of ships filled the space above the station, each more elegant and imposing than the last. These were no ordinary ships. They were dragon-class vessels, ships that humans had only read about in legends and history archives. Massive, graceful, alive with technology that seemed almost magical. Ships that could slice through asteroid fields without breaking a sweat. Ships that could annihilate entire fleets if commanded. And now they were all here, moving with purpose but not aggression. Yet. The veteran froze, his heart raced. His mind screamed questions he could not answer. A voice came over every channel, calm and clear, yet carrying the authority of 1,000 years of tradition. Where is the human who showed mercy? Every being in the station went silent. Humans, aliens, hybrids, all stopped in their tracks. No one dared answer immediately. The voice repeated, carrying the weight of history behind it. Where is the human who gave all he had? The veteran swallowed. He felt all the air leave his lungs. 13 cents. 13 small coins he had dropped into a bowl. That was all. And now the galaxy seemed to be watching him because of it. A shadow moved through the station, a figure appearing from the crowd, impossibly tall and graceful even in her movement. The dragon woman. She was no longer kneeling or weak. Her wings were fully healed, shining with deep red and gold light. Her horns curved elegantly, and her eyes glimmered with intelligence and command. She wore armor unlike anything the veteran had ever seen, polished and adorned with symbols he could not recognize. She moved as if space itself bent around her. The veteran stepped back, unsure whether to bow, run, or speak. "Human," she said, her voice echoing throughout the station despite its softness. "Do you know what you have done?" He shook his head slowly. I just gave what I had, 13 cents, nothing more," she smiled faintly. It was a smile that carried warmth, respect, and the kind of pride that made even the oldest and strongest dragons bow. "Nothing," she repeated. "You gave everything you had, even when it meant you would have nothing for yourself. That is not nothing, that is everything." The veteran could only stare. He did not understand how this could matter to her or to all these ships. But as she spoke, the station's security forces, traders, and aliens all moved aside, creating a path for him. The hum in the station grew louder, as if the metal and walls themselves acknowledged the moment. "Human," the dragon woman continued, "your choice has set a chain in motion that cannot be ignored. In dragon culture, acts of true sacrifice bind those who receive them to the giver. You have bound me. And that bond is older than pride, older than kingdoms. It is a debt of honor." A chill ran down the veteran's spine. He had not intended to do anything heroic. He had not intended to be noticed. He had only done what felt right. Yet now, the galaxy seemed to recognize his act as something monumental. The dragon woman lifted her hand, and a holographic display appeared above the station. Symbols, charts, and glowing scripts filled the space. Messages were being sent across countless light years to dragon fleets in distant systems. The veteran watched in disbelief as ships from worlds he had never even known existed began to move. They responded instantly to her call, forming a formation that no human could have imagined. It was a display of power and precision, and it was all for him. A low murmur rose from the crowd. "Who is he?" someone whispered. "Why are they listening to him?" The veteran felt overwhelmed. He wanted to speak, to explain that he was just an old soldier forgotten by the galaxy, but the dragon woman shook her head. "No," she said, "you are not forgotten. You are remembered and you will be honored." Her fleet began to move closer. Ships larger than the station itself hovered in orbit, their presence both beautiful and terrifying. The hum of their energy systems resonated through the floors, walls, and even the veteran's chest. Every being on the station instinctively knelt, bowed, or lowered their eyes. Some aliens who prided themselves on strength trembled slightly in fear. The veteran's mind raced. How could a single human, one so small, one so poor, cause such a response? How could 13 cents, given without hope of reward, summon fleets, respect, and fear across light years of space? The dragon woman stepped closer to him, her towering form casting a shadow that seemed to cover the entire station. Her eyes met his. "This is not about the coins," she said. "It is about the courage behind them. It is about the willingness to give, even when there is nothing left to give. That is why humans are remarkable. That is why you are remarkable." The veteran felt his chest tighten. He had fought in countless battles, survived wars, and endured hardships that would have broken most beings. But none of that had earned him this recognition. None of that had mattered, until now. The crowd began to murmur again, quieter this time. Some of them began to record the moment, others simply stared in disbelief. The veteran realized that the galaxy's opinion of humans might be changing. Slowly, perhaps, but unmistakably. A young trader approached, hesitating. "Sir, human, what should we do?" The veteran shook his head. I don't know, I never expected this." The dragon woman placed a clawed hand on his shoulder. "Do not worry, you did not act for recognition, and that is why it matters. You will not be harmed. You will not be forgotten. The galaxy will remember your choice, and through it, humanity will be remembered as well." The veteran swallowed hard. His hands shook, not from hunger or cold, but from the enormity of what was happening. He had done a simple act. He had given what little he had. And in return, the universe had taken notice. As the dragon fleets aligned above the station, their energy fields creating a dazzling display of light and power, the veteran realized something profound. The galaxy was not ruled by the strongest, nor by the wealthiest. It was ruled in its quietest moments by those who dared to act when no one else would. And today, a poor human veteran had done exactly that. The dragon woman stepped back, her wings folding elegantly. Her fleet pulsed with light, signaling their readiness. Yet despite their overwhelming power, not a single ship moved to attack. Not a single laser, not a single weapon was aimed. They were there for respect, for honor, and for a promise kept across the stars. The veteran watched in awe, finally understanding. His life, his sacrifices, his humanity, they all mattered. Perhaps for the first time he felt truly seen, and across the galaxy a silent truth began to spread. Even a single human, with nothing but courage and kindness, could command the respect of dragons. The station had become a place unlike any the veteran had ever seen. Ships larger than the station itself hovered in orbit, their glowing hulls reflecting the dim lights of the outpost. The air vibrated with power, resonating through walls, floors, and even the veteran's chest. Everywhere he looked, beings of all species stared at him. Humans, dragons, hybrids, and aliens whose shapes defied imagination. No one spoke above a whisper, as if fear, respect, and curiosity had silenced the entire station. And at the center of it all stood the dragon woman. She radiated authority, confidence, and something deeper, something older than the galaxy itself. Her wings were fully healed, stretching wide, glimmering with metallic reds and golds. Her horns curved elegantly toward the sky. Her armor, polished and intricate, carried symbols that the veteran could not understand, yet he somehow knew they were marks of immense rank and history. She had once been broken, a figure of vulnerability kneeling in the dust, but now she was a force the galaxy would remember. The veteran felt small, though not insignificant. He had lived most of his life in invisibility, unnoticed by the galaxy, yet here, every eye followed his movements. Every action he took was watched, analyzed, and, most importantly, respected. The dragon woman spoke, her voice calm but carrying weight. "Human, do you know why I am here?" I think it's because of the coins I gave," the veteran said, almost ashamed. 13 cents, that's all I had." She shook her head, wings rustling like distant thunder. "It was never about the coins. It was about the courage behind them. You gave everything you had, knowing it could cost you everything. That is the rarest form of honor, not just among humans but among all species in the galaxy." The veteran stared. He had spent his life fighting in wars, surviving catastrophes, and facing enemies that had seemed unstoppable. Yet none of those moments had ever earned him recognition like this. This, this was something else entirely. The dragon woman raised her hand, and a series of holographic panels floated above the station, filled with images, data streams, and symbols he could not understand. "These ships," she said, "these fleets are the elite of dragon society. Each vessel, each captain, and every crew has been summoned because of one thing, your act of selflessness. That is how dragons measure worth, and by that measure, you are exceptional." The veteran felt dizzy. He had given a small gesture, and yet it had triggered respect, attention, and honor on a scale he could not imagine. Why me?" he asked. "I'm just a poor old human, forgotten, alone, nothing more." "You are not nothing," she said firmly. "You are what all humans can be. Courage, kindness, integrity, the willingness to act when no one else will. That is why the galaxy must remember you. That is why the galaxy must remember humanity." Her words struck something deep inside him. He had always believed humans were resilient, adaptable, capable of great things. But he had never thought that the rest of the galaxy would see it the same way. That perhaps his species, small and fragile in the eyes of dragons and aliens alike, could command respect simply through character, through courage, through the ability to choose honor even in the smallest moments. She paused, wings folding gracefully behind her. "This is not just about you," she continued. "It is about all humans. The galaxy has underestimated your species for centuries, believing that size, strength, or technology defines worth. But humans define worth by their choices. You just proved it. And for that, you have created a debt that binds me to you and by extension to your species." The veteran swallowed. He did not fully understand, but he felt the weight of her words. A debt older than pride, older than kingdoms. A bond forged in kindness and courage, unseen yet undeniable. The dragon fleets above began to move with precision, forming formations that no human mind could have imagined. Beams of light danced across the station as energy fields activated, not for war, but for protection and ceremony. Their presence was awe-inspiring and terrifying at once, a reminder that power, when combined with respect, could command attention without a single weapon fired. "Human," the dragon woman said, stepping closer, "I have been exiled from my own council. My name carries weight but also danger. Yet your act of kindness called me back to the galaxy to honor what is right. You have restored something I feared was lost forever." The veteran could barely comprehend it. A dragon noble, powerful and feared across the stars, owed him a debt. Because of 13 cents, because of a simple gesture that cost him nothing but his last coins. He shook his head, almost in disbelief. "I didn't do it to get anything," he said quietly. I just wanted to help. And that is why it matters," she said, her eyes softening. "The galaxy has no need for arrogance or greed. It has always needed acts like yours, small moments of courage, choice, and integrity. You have reminded us all of that." A murmur spread through the crowd that had gathered in the station. Aliens whispered to one another, humans stared in awe, and even the station's automated system seemed to pause, acknowledging the rare moment. The veteran realized something profound. The galaxy was watching not because of power or wealth, but because of humanity itself. The dragon woman gestured toward the fleets. "These ships are here not to fight, but to honor, to protect, to witness. Every captain, every crew member knows of your act. They have been summoned across light years, ready to offer aid should it be needed. And they are here because you, a single human, chose to give when there was nothing to gain. The veteran felt a shiver run through him. He had fought wars where the outcome mattered, where lives were on the line. He had survived betrayals, disasters, and the endless cold of space. Yet none of those experiences had ever made him feel the significance of a single choice as this moment did. The dragon woman continued, her voice resonating through the station. You have reminded the galaxy of something very old, very important. That life is not measured by wealth or strength, but by courage, integrity, and the willingness to act for others. Humans are remarkable not because of what they take, but because of what they give, even when it costs them everything. The veteran's chest tightened. He thought of the battles he had fought, the comrades he had lost, and the moments when he had given everything he had and more. Perhaps this was the true measure of humanity, and he, in this small act, had become its symbol. He looked around. Humans in the crowd stared at him, their faces a mixture of awe, pride, and disbelief. Alien species that had once underestimated his kind now whispered in respect. The station's atmosphere was charged with anticipation, a recognition of the bond between courage and consequence, between kindness and honor. The dragon woman stepped closer, lowering her head in a gesture of respect. Your name will be recorded in our eternal archives. Your story will travel across the stars, not as a legend of power or conquest, but as a testament to the strength of the human spirit. The veteran felt his throat tighten. Recognition had never been something he sought, yet now he realized it was not about him alone. It was about what humans could be, what they had always been capable of, even if the galaxy had forgotten. Humanity, the dragon woman said, raising her voice so all could hear, is not defined by its weapons or ships, nor by its wealth. Humanity is defined by its choices. Courage, honor, compassion. And today one human reminded us all of that truth. A hush fell over the station. Then slowly the crowd erupted in applause, not loud but deep and resonant. Not just humans, but dragons, aliens, and hybrids alike acknowledged the moment. They had seen what humans could do, not with force, but with integrity, with courage, and with selfless action. The veteran felt a warmth in his chest he had not felt in decades. Recognition, respect, honor. These were things he had thought long gone from his life. Yet here in the cold depths of space, they had returned. Not because of power, not because of fear, not because of wealth, but because he had chosen to act when no one else would. Above, the dragon fleets shimmered in formation, their presence a reminder that the galaxy was vast, but so was the reach of honor. Below, the station seemed to pulse with life, a heartbeat connecting all who bore witness to the human veteran's act. For the first time in years, the veteran felt truly seen, truly remembered, truly valued, not just as a soldier but as a human being capable of extraordinary choices. And in that moment, he understood something that would stay with him forever. The weight of a single choice could ripple across the stars, change minds, shift power, and remind the galaxy that even the smallest among them could be mighty. A poor human, giving 13 cents to a stranger, had reminded the universe what humanity was capable of. The station had never felt so alive. Ships hung in orbit, their massive forms gleaming like living jewels against the blackness of space. Energy fields shimmered around the docking bays, creating a soft, pulsing light that reflected on the walls and floors. Yet the most remarkable thing was not the ships, nor the lights, nor the whispers of awe from aliens and humans alike. It was the quiet presence of the veteran, standing at the center of it all, a single human at the heart of a galaxy suddenly reminded of humanity's worth. The dragon woman, now fully restored and regal in appearance, hovered slightly above the veteran, her wings folded gracefully behind her. Her eyes glimmered with pride and gratitude, and her voice rang across the station with calm authority. "Human," she said, "your courage and kindness have reached farther than you can imagine. Not just across this station, not just across this system, but across hundreds of worlds. Your act of giving has reminded the galaxy of something it had almost forgotten. That strength lies not only in might, but in choice. That courage is not measured in weapons, but in the willingness to act for others. That humanity is remarkable." The veteran felt a lump in his throat. He had never sought recognition. He had never asked for thanks. He had given 13 cents simply because it felt right. And yet the galaxy was honoring him, and in doing so honoring all humans. He looked around. Traders, guards, and civilians watched him with awe. Even aliens who had once dismissed humans as weak now whispered among themselves, nodding in quiet respect. The station itself seemed to hum with energy, as if recognizing the significance of this moment. The dragon woman extended a clawed hand toward him. "You have created a bond, a debt of honor that cannot be ignored. The fleets above will remain in orbit, ready to assist humanity whenever needed. Your name and the story of your choice will be recorded in our eternal archives. All who hear it will know that even the smallest human, with nothing to give but courage and integrity, can inspire the galaxy." The veteran shook his head. I never wanted this," he said softly. "I only wanted to help. And that," she said, "is why it matters. True worth is not measured by ambition, by greed, or by power. It is measured by the heart and the choices one makes, even when there is nothing to gain." For a moment, silence fell across the station. Every being, every eye, every sensor seemed to hold its breath. Then slowly, a quiet wave of acknowledgement spread. Aliens bowed slightly, traders lowered their heads, and humans smiled with pride. The galaxy, in all its vastness and complexity, was taking notice. The veteran's heart swelled. He had fought wars and survived battles, endured losses that would have broken anyone else, and wandered in obscurity for decades. Yet here, in a corner of space that had once seemed so small and unimportant, he realized that his actions, his humanity, could ripple across the stars. The dragon woman's wings shimmered as she moved closer. "There are those who will doubt, who will try to dismiss humans as weak or insignificant, but they will remember you, and they will remember your choice. And through that memory, they will remember all humans." Above, the dragon fleets shifted in formation, their energy fields casting colorful reflections across the station. Ships that could have destroyed worlds were poised in respect, not aggression. Their captains, knowing the story of a human veteran who had given everything he had to help another, understood that power was not always the strongest weapon. Compassion, integrity, and courage could be stronger still. A young human child standing at the edge of the crowd looked up at the veteran with wide eyes. "Is it really true?" the child asked softly. "Can one human really make all this happen?" The veteran knelt, bringing himself to the child's level. He smiled gently. "Yes," he said. "One person can make a difference. One choice can change everything. It doesn't matter how small you feel. What matters is what you are willing to do." The child's eyes sparkled. Somewhere deep inside, the spark of hope and courage was lit, a seed that would grow as surely as the stars shone above. The dragon woman watched silently, a rare softness in her eyes. "This is what humans teach the galaxy," she said quietly to herself. "That even in weakness there is strength, that even in poverty there is power, that even in silence a single choice can echo across the universe." The veteran straightened, looking at the fleets above. He realized that the dragon's power, vast as it was, did not diminish the lesson. Instead, it magnified it. Even the mightiest beings respected courage. Even the most advanced species honored kindness. And even the farthest reaches of space were not beyond the reach of a single, selfless act. The dragon woman extended her wings, casting a shadow across the station. "I will take you to a place where you will be safe, where humans will be honored, and where your story will be remembered, she said. But you may choose. You may continue your life as it was, or you may step into a galaxy that finally sees you for who you truly are. The veteran thought for a long moment. He had lived in obscurity for decades. He had known hunger, hardship, and loneliness, yet he had never felt invisible before. Here, in the glow of dragon ships and the eyes of the galaxy, he realized that his life could mean more than survival, it could inspire. I, I want to continue helping, he said finally. I want to do what I can, even if it's small, but I want to stay human. I want my choices to matter, not because of recognition, but because they are the right thing to do. The dragon woman nodded, understanding in her gaze. That is why the galaxy will respect you, she said, because true honor is never given. It is earned by those who act when no one else will, and you have earned it, human. From that moment, the station became a symbol. News traveled faster than light across hundreds of systems. Aliens, humans, and hybrids all shared the story. A poor human veteran had given his last 13 cents to a dragon woman in need. That simple act had triggered respect, fleets of elite ships, and a reminder across the galaxy of what humanity truly represented. Humans everywhere watched and felt a swell of pride. For centuries, they had been underestimated, dismissed, and overlooked. Now, through a single act of courage and kindness, they were remembered. Not for their technology, not for their numbers, not for conquest, but for their choices, their morality, and their ability to act even in the face of nothingness. The dragon woman and her fleets eventually departed, leaving the station in awe but no longer fear. They left behind resources, technology, and protection, yes, but more importantly, they left behind a message. Humanity is not powerful because it dominates. Humanity is powerful because it gives. The veteran returned to his small home within the station, a place he could call his own. The streets outside were alive with whispers and awe, yet he moved quietly among them, unchanged except for the knowledge that his life, and the lives of all humans, could matter in ways the galaxy had long forgotten. He placed the 13 cents he had given into a small box. They were worthless in material terms, yet priceless in meaning. They were a reminder of what courage, kindness, and selfless choice could accomplish. They were proof that even a single human could echo across the stars. He sat in silence, looking out at the fleets above, glimmering against the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, across countless systems, aliens, humans, and dragons alike would remember the story. A poor human veteran, invisible to the galaxy, had reminded it of humanity's true strength. And for the first time in decades, he smiled, not because of recognition, but because he knew the truth. The galaxy had seen humans. The galaxy had remembered them. And humanity, in all its simplicity, courage, and brilliance, had been honored.